Hi, I'm Aaron Ritter from the Kosher Wine Society, and in Wine 101, you're going to learn all about how to taste the wine, the S's of wine tasting, what makes a great wine, some of the characteristics that winemakers use to really make a fantastic wine. And I'm excited for you to learn about this within Wine 101. Come join us, come learn, come get educated about kosher wines, about wine in general. Look forward to seeing you. Chaim. What is wine? Grapes that are fermented, exactly. So you have grapes, you put in yeast, and you ferment it, and it makes wine. Good job. You've been practicing, I know already. I can tell. Yeah. So, first of all, who am I, right? That's people ask me that, like, what are you doing? What do you know? Who are you? My name is Aaron Ritter. I'm the president and founder of the Kosher Wine Society. I started this organization 5 years ago to educate people about wine, to educate people and do different wine tasting events, scotch tasting events, food and wine pairing events. We have events that we do at restaurants. We have events that we do in facilities like this. We have events that we've done for charities and organizations that they've hired us to come and run their wine tasting events for them. And for the last 5 years, we've been doing these events, getting a large following of members, that people have joined the Kosher Wine Society, as well as people that just like to come to different wine tasting events and learn and be educated. So we're going to be doing more courses. We're having an event with Alex Haruni from Dalton Winery, which is a boutique winery in Israel. We're going to be doing new wines for the new year. Very excited about this event. It's all new wines and vintages new to the U.S. before the holidays, before Rosh Hashanah. So all new wines and vintages, and that's September 21st. On the bottom here, it just says the different dates when it's available. All right, so we have wine, we have grapes, we have yeast. It makes a wine, okay? But how do you make a great wine? What are some of the characteristics that you need to make a great wine? And on the table in front of you, you have this little, I call it my cheat sheet. Okay? We have this little cheat sheet, and it's got little acronyms. So how do you make a great wine? So the G, the R, and the W. G-R-E-A-T, wine. That's the acronyms. So what do you need to make a great wine?
Grape.
You need an awesome grape. Okay?
It's a really good
Soil, which would be under the R, which is the region. You need a fantastic grape growing region. And then the W, I'll explain in 1 second. What are some great grapes that are out there? What are some grapes that you know about that are available? Chardonnay. Anyone else? Riesling. Good job. Keep going, sure, why not? Pinot Noir. Cabernet. Anyone else know? Merlot. So these are all grapes. These are actually grape varietals, and that's what you need to make a great wine. So you need a good grape. That's step one. Step two is you need a great grape growing region. So what are some regions that make fantastic grapes, make great wine? Champagne region. Sonoma, Napa Valley, California. We have a seat right here. Oh, you grab a seat right there because they have two more people coming. Okay. Grab a seat right next to them. Set them up. Bordeaux, exactly. Oh, you know what? Right here is. All right. Come on in. In Chile, okay, so in Chile they make great grapes. There's Mendoza Valley, there's in Tuscany, the Tuscan region in Italy. So all these are great grape growing regions. And with those regions, you make fantastic grapes in those regions. That's why they're there. And with that, you need, obviously, the soil that you were talking about before. You need a great climate. You need the right temperature. And so you need all these different characteristics to make up a great growing region. The last one, the W. W is exciting.
Weather?
The weather is part of the region. The weather is part of the region.
Oh, winery?
Winery, winemaker. Good job. All right, so you need a great wine maker. And the winemaker is kind of the key to it all. He's the person that is going to take mediocre grapes and make a great wine. He's the person that can take a not such great vintage and turn it into a great vintage. Thanks. So we need a great wine maker. He's the chef. He's the person that's going to take the wine and take the grapes and make it into something unique and special and different that you've never tasted before, right? So those are the three things that we need to make a great wine. We're going to keep moving, all right? Now, because we're getting ready to start tasting a wine, start sipping a wine. There's a lot of S's associated with tasting a wine. What are some of the S's? And I'm sure you know a lot, plenty of them. S's of wine, the S's of wine tasting.
Sweetness?
The sweetness, okay. They all begin with S. Every single word, the scent, the smell. What else? Sip. Swirl. What else? Slurp. What is it? Swallow, spit, right? So there's so many S's that are associated with tasting wine. The first thing you do whenever you get a glass of wine, and everyone's got glasses of wines in front of them already. So you're going to take glass one, which you're pouring now. Alright, so everyone's got glass one already, or they should have it. Alright? So the first thing we're going to do is, and when you get a glass of wine, is you're going to see its color. Okay? So the first thing, whenever you get a glass of wine, you're going to see it. You're going to look at the colors. A good comparison is glass 1 and 2, because 1, right, is a lot lighter than 2. So you can really see the difference between these two, and you can really see that there is a big difference between these two types of wines. Okay? And I'm going to explain to you how to evaluate it and do all that type of stuff. The second S of wine tasting is swirling. Okay, swirling the wine. So what you're going to do is you're going to put the glass on the table unless you want to get your suit dirty or shirt dirty. But with white wines, it's not so bad if it happens. So you're going to swirl the wine. That's the easiest way to do it on the table. If you get fancy, you can do it like in your hand, you know. And obviously, certain glasses are better for swirling the wine, while others are not as good. So first thing you do is you see the wine. Second thing you do is swirl the wine. All right. First thing you do is what? See. Second thing is
Swirl.
all right. And the third thing, smell. All right. Everyone got that one. That was awesome. All right. The third thing is just smell the wine. So what does this wine smell like to you? Flowers, fruitiness. What characteristics? What nose smells do you smell on this wine? All right, so just keep that in mind, and we're gonna do a little bit of a little something in a moment with all these and putting it all together. Okay. So the first thing you do is see. Second one, third one, fourth one, sip. All right, this is our favorite one. But before we can sip the wine, we're gonna do a little palate training. Okay? So there are 4 tongue tastes that we have. Okay? The only 4 things our tongue can taste are what?
Sweet, sour, salty.
Sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. Right? Sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. Those are only 4 things our tongue can taste. I believe they came out with a new one, savory. But it's still, they're still trying to work that into the dictionary and stuff like that. What are you saying?
There's still some mention about that.
Yeah, there still comes in. So I don't include it, but savory is another one. And that begins with an S too, which is kind of cool. So For tongue taste, sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. So the first thing you have in front of you on the top is a packet of sugar. So we're going to take that packet of sugar, we're going to open it up. Okay? You're going to put a little bit of sugar in your mouth, or a lot of sugar if you like sugar packets. Yes, have sugar packets back there? So the question is, where do you taste this in your mouth? Is it the front, the sides of your tongue, middle, the back? Front. Most people will taste the sweetness in the front of their tongues, or in the back, all the way in the back. So most people will taste in the front or all the way in the back. All right. So that's the first one. That's the sweetness. So when you're tasting a wine, think about where you tasted this. That's where in the wine you're going to taste the same thing. The next thing is our sour, right? So let's taste this. Even if you just think about biting into this, you will already start salivating on the sides of your mouth, right? Just thinking about it. But when you taste it, where do you taste this in your mouth? Where do you? You need a lemon?
Oh, I didn't see it, sorry.
She's got it. Taste in the middle. So what's very, very interesting about everybody's taste buds is that they're all different, right? Most people, it would be on the sides. When you think about it, when you think about tasting a lemon, you'll start salivating on the sides. That's where you're going to really start thinking about it. So the lemon is the acidity in the wine. Okay? So when you taste these wines, you're going to think about the acidity and how acidic are the wines. The third one, okay, is the tannin. Okay? So that's the bitterness. Sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. Right? So the fourth one really is bitter. If you taste salt in the wine, salty is for crackers, it's not for wine. It should not be salty, your wine. It could be sweet, it could be a little savory, but it shouldn't be salty. So if it's salty, it's probably not too good. The last one, this is just regular black tea. Taste it. You're going to taste the tannins, the bitterness. This is in red wines. A lot of what you're going to taste is the tannins in the wine. Where do you taste that? Where the back, right? It's like that dryness, that and so that's what people love in red wines, is that dryness. And that's what, see, if a wine is too acidic, and it's got too much of the acid, or it's got too much of the, could you just run out there and see if someone's there? I know one of the doors is open, but if there's too much acidic, or there's too much bitterness, people are not going to like it. So when we talk about, when a winemaker or when a connoisseur talks about the balance of the wine, that's what you're looking for, is a combination of all those parts, combination of the sweet, the sour, the bitterness, kind of putting it all together into one flavor profile. Okay? So we do that. So that was on sipping the wine. Say hi, how are you today? No worries. So, for tongue taste, okay. So those are some of the characteristics. So how do you taste the wine? That's what we're talking about, right? We're up to sip. So we did the see, we did the swirl, we did the smell. Now we're up to sip. How do you taste the wine? What do you do? So what you're going to do is, you're going to take you came at the perfect time, I'm telling you right now. We're up to the tasting part. This is the best part. All right. You're going to take some wine in your mouth, okay? You take some wine into your mouth, and you're going to swish it around in your mouth. He's bringing you wine right now. And you're going to breathe in air with it. So it's going to look and sound like this. So don't do it yet, but it's going to look and sound like this. Get the picture? All right. What this does is it aerates it. It opens up the wine in your mouth. If you've ever been to like a real wine tasting event where I had to do a wine tasting event where I had to taste 170 wines. So you can imagine trying to taste 170 wines without drinking, because if you drink, you'll be drunk after, like, even though you drink that many wines, you taste that many wines, you still can get drunk. So, because it literally just goes right to your brain. So, what we do is we spit, obviously, a lot of the wines. But to really get a taste, you really breathe in air with it, and it opens it up, and it aerates it in your mouth, and it allows all the flavors to come out. And when you try this wine, I want you to try it both ways. I want you to taste a little bit, take a little bit in your mouth. It's a safe space. You're not out on a date. You're not out, in public. So taste it both ways. See how you like it, one way versus the other way. And you can do a combination. You can just put it in your mouth and just swirl it around, kind of see what the flavors are. So you can do that too. You don't have to necessarily go, in public. But you can definitely just take a taste of it and kind of see what it is. So that's the fourth S, right? Sipping the wine. The last S, you can taste the wine right now, so you can practice it. But I'm going to go on to the last S. The last S is sum it up, summarize. Do you like this wine? Right? Is this something you're going to go to the store and buy again? Is this something you want to give to a friend as a gift? Right? Do you like this wine? Wine is a very personalized journey. It's your own personal experience. What you like, someone else will not like. What someone else likes, you probably hate, right? So you have to really realize that when you're tasting wines, everyone's got their own kind of story, their own journey with it. And whatever they want, you can have arguments all day long. This is the best wine, no, this is the best wine, have you ever tasted this wine? But the bottom line is that everyone's got their own taste buds, their own kind of personal, unique story with the wine. Okay, so when you're thinking about summarizing the wine, a couple things to notice. One, is it a long finish or is it a short finish? Okay, so does it linger in your mouth for a long period of time, or is it very, very short-lived? Two, right, the balance of the wine. So, sorry, before the balance, hold on a second. Sorry, my little cheat sheet here. And you all will have this too. So the finish, which I just spoke about, the acidity, okay, is this very acidic, or is it there's no acid in there? The sweetness of it, the body. Is it a full-bodied wine, or is it very, very light? So when I talk about the body, in your mouth, does it feel like 1% milk, skim milk, whole milk? What does it actually feel like in your mouth? Is it very heavy, or is it very, very thin and light? And then under the sum it up, summarize, we talk about a couple things: the finish, the balance. How well do all these pieces come together? Is it a very, does it work harmoniously together? Or is one thing out of line? Is there too much acidity? Is there not enough sweetness? Is the body very thin and you don't like it, right? And complexity. Is this wine a very complex wine, or is it very basic, like very dull? The quality, do you think it's, is it good quality, and the preference, do you like it, dislike it, okay? So what we're going to be doing with the white wines is you have two wines in front of you, okay? Two different types of wines, and I'll explain to you what they are afterwards. You're going to work with your partner, which is next to you, or in threes. You're going to work together to decide which wine do you like better, okay? And you're going to give it a rating of, on the top part, the color. Now it's all personal preference, just remember that, okay? It's not a black and white book. There's no rule book. It's all very, very personalized. So when you see it, do you like the more brownish hue, or do you like the light one? That's a personal preference, and you can decide if you like that or not like that. It's your choice. And if you don't care, it doesn't matter to you, just give it 5 points. Now you think about it, if you're tasting 175 wines, let's say, in a wine tasting event, or if you're tasting 5 wines at your house, right? You need to have a basis of where you're going to start from. So you need to know something about the wines. So hopefully tonight you're going to walk out with the basics, with a starting point So when you move forward, you'll be able to go, this next wine that I taste, I like the other one better, and therefore that one's an 85 and this one's an 84, because I like the other one better that I remember. And you can also, this is also a way to keep notes and to really understand what you're tasting. So the first one, you're going to give 0 to 5 points for the color of it. See again. Is it brilliant? Is it hazy? Is it a green tinge, straw, gold, or amber? Okay? Now, on the swirl, we're not going to give any points for the swirl, but when you swirl the wine, everyone talks about the legs of the wine, right? You hear connoisseurs talk about the legs, or in movies. More likely in movies, talk about, this wine's got great legs. What are you looking at here is how, it really tells you how much sugar is in the wines. Not necessarily if it's a good quality wine or not, because if you've done this to like a sweet Concord wine, a nice Kiddush wine, it's going to be very, very pronounced, and it's going to come down very slowly. Or a dessert wine, you'll see it as well. You'll see the colors come down very, very pronounced. So what we're going to do here with this one is it's just for your own, just kind of being aware of. Is it faint or is it very pronounced? The smell, sniff, right? These are a lot of the different characteristics that you'll smell in white wines. So you'll smell citrus, you'll smell apple, you can smell stone, slate, cinnamon, almond, vanilla, smoky, honey, butterscotch. So many different smells that you can smell in it, and it's about you picking out what you can smell. Not necessarily what someone else can smell, so you might smell some things that someone else can't smell. And then on the sipping, and you're going to get 15 points for the smell of it. If you really like the smell, just give it 15 points. You don't need to necessarily go through each one. But if you want to be very accurate about what you're smelling and the different characteristics and notes, you can do that. Okay. Under the sipping part, the acidity, you just try that lemon, right? So if it tastes like the lemon, it's going to be a very, very high acidity. The sweetness, you just taste the sugar. It's going to be the same thing. The body, is it light, full, medium body, 1%, 2% milk, and the alcohol is, typically with alcohol, it's hard to tell the alcohol. But if you've ever tried a wine that's got a lot of alcohol, they call it very hot wine. And this goes into food and wine pairing, which we can talk about a little bit. But when you're pairing food and wines, you don't want to serve a wine that has a lot of alcohol with a food that's very spicy, because it's going to overpower it. You want to try a wine that's less alcoholic, a little bit more fruit forward and fruity to pair with your wines, to pair with your meal if it's a very spicy meal. And that's kind of what you're looking for with pairing food and wine together, are those components.
Wouldn't the food then overpower the wine?
Well, it's possible that the food would, but if you have two things that are both very, very powerful, you're really not going to be able to taste the difference between the two. So like, let's say Chinese food, if you're ever going to pair Chinese food, which I'm not sure how many of you actually do it. We all drink wine with a lot of things, but let's be realistic, right? But how many of you actually pairing Chinese food? So with Chinese food, what would you pair it with? If you wanted to pair with something, I would try like a Moscato or Riesling, right? Because a Riesling is going to be a sweeter, fruit-forward wine, and therefore it's going to balance out the spiciness in the Chinese food. Okay? So that's the alcohol. And then sum it up. Preference. Do you like it? Dislike it? 1 to 15 points on that side. The wine gets 50 points for being here. Just for showing up. It's like the SATs. You have 50 points for each wine. Okay? Just for showing up, the wine gets 50 points. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So the finish, is it short, medium, long, very long? The balance, do all those components come well together, or is one of the top of the taste out of whack? Complexity, is it simple or is it complex? The quality, is it poor, good, excellent? And the preference, do you like it, dislike it? So you're going to work with your neighbor, you're going to work in threes, and kind of work together to really see if you like the wine. So start working together, and if you have questions, I'll talk more a little bit about a couple of different things.
Are you drinking these or not?
All right.
The first one is like food. I like the first one.
Yeah, the other one.
I don't like the taste. I don't like sour. What is that? It's like
All right, so we were tasting two white wines tonight and two reds. The first wine that we're tasting, all the wines are from Israel, first of all. This is the Tepperberg Sauvignon Blanc, okay? So the Sauvignon Blanc is the grape varietal, okay? It's 100% Sauvignon Blanc. It's a very, very fruity type of wine. A lot of fruit, a lot of characteristics of. You can taste some apricot, maybe. You can smell a couple different citrus. A lot of citrus on the nose, and it's a very, very nice wine. What's pretty cool about Tepperberg Winery? It says 1870 on the bottle here. Okay, so that means it was in Israel before it was called Israel. That's for sure. For some people, not for most, but 1870. It's one of the oldest Israeli wineries. Before Carmel is the oldest Israeli winery in Israel. Tepperberg is probably number 2 or 3. I believe number 2 in terms of the oldest winery in Israel. What's pretty cool about Carmel, which I'm going to go to for a moment, we're not tasting any of their wines tonight, but Carmel has been in the U.S. for over 100 years. So it's a pretty cool story, the Carmel Winery. And before that, it was called the Palestine Wine Company. Before it was Carmel. And the story with Carmel and with Tepperberg is that Baron Edmund Rothschild came over in the 1800s to Israel and brought grapes and grape varietals to Israel. Spent 6 million French, I don't even know what to call them. French francs. I don't think they exist anymore, do they? French francs?
No, the euros.
The euros now. So 6 million, which you can imagine in the 1800s how much money that really was. And he planted all these vines and he planted all the fields there. And they had a good couple of years of crops, and then they had a big devastation pretty much. All the crops in all of Israel had gotten a disease, and they all, had some serious issues with the grapes. So but that's really where the Israeli wine culture started. It was back then. Then they started bringing in grape varietals from other areas and producing wines, not Cabernet Merlots and really great quality wine from Israel. So that's the first one, and the second one is actually from Tepperberg as well. We also have a Sauvignon Blanc that I'll have you taste as well afterwards. It's from the Dalton Winery, which is one of the reds that we're tasting. And this is a Chardonnay. So the first one's a Sauvignon Blanc, the second one's a Chardonnay. Two completely different wines. And here's the other piece. One of them is Mavushal, one of them is not. Okay? So let's go back. What is a kosher wine? Who here knows what a kosher wine is?
Blessed by a rabbi.
Contrary to that belief, it's not.
It's spoiled.
Well, so I'm going to get to that. That's Mavushal, okay? That doesn't necessarily mean that's kosher. Right. A kosher wine.
Is wine that was not painted by a non-Jew.
Right. So that's some pieces to it. So I'm going to put it all together, right? These are all little pieces to it. A kosher wine is a wine. So in Israel, there are specific rules regarding the land. So the first 3 years, you cannot use the grapes. It's a rule of the land. Also, every 7 years, there's something called Shemitah, and then there's there's Yovel, there's other things that are going on. Every 7 years, you can't use the grapes as well. So a kosher wine would not be wines that they produce in the first 3 years of the grapes growing. That'll be one. Number two, it would be wine from beginning to end. The process has to be done by Sabbath-observant Jews. Okay, so if you want a hafsher, you want a supervision on your wine. From beginning to end, the process, you have to have supervision on the wine. Doesn't mean the rabbi is blessing it. It just means that there's supervision on it and from beginning to end, and only handled by Sabbath-observant Jews. Okay, people ask me all the time, why? What can go into a wine that can make it unkosher, right? So let's go back thousands of years ago, 2,000 years ago. Not only are so Jews are not the only people out there. There were other cultures going on at the same time. And kosher wine is used for sacramental and sacrificial purposes. They used it back in the day. They had a temple, and they used to use the wine for services. Okay, and part of that was that the wine had to be pure. It had to be wine that only was the purest of wines. And how do they make sure that that happened? If you only have Sabbath-observant Jews touching the wine, you will know it's kosher, right? It's very simple. That's how they did it. So those rules still apply today. That only Sabbath-observant Jews can make the wine. And so with that, today those rules still apply, and it's the same kind of story right now. So what makes kosher wine is the process from beginning to end, Sabbath-observant Jews, and as well they make sure that they wouldn't use the wine for any other worship or anything else but for that specific use. So now, what does boiling the wine do? And mavushal, right? So if you go to a kosher restaurant out there, right, in New York, you go to La Marais, you go to Prime Grill, you go to a kosher restaurant, you have a bottle of wine, it's mavushal, it's boiled. Okay, does that mean it's good? Does it mean it's bad? It doesn't mean that. All it means is that it's boiled. So what does boiling it do? Right? So in the temple, they would only use wine that was pure. It would not be boiled. So if you boiled it, you wouldn't be able to use it there, and as well, you wouldn't be able to use it in any other worship for that matter. So that was kind of their way out. They boil the wine, and therefore you can use it anywhere in any situation. Okay? So now, these days, all wine in these restaurants are boiled, they're kosher. Now, what do? They do something called a flash pasteurization. They take it up to a boil very, very quickly, and then they bring it down to room temperature. There's different ways that it can be done, and we can talk more about that, but it's really not important for this. Now, does it taste different? It can. It can ruin the taste of the wine. There are non-kosher French wines out there that produce high-quality wines that will pasteurize their wines. What does it do for it? What they say it does for it is that it almost stops the fermentation of it. Okay, and therefore, what happens is you have a consistency within your wine where you can't really get that without that. So therefore, they tend to do that. They pasteurize their wines. There's like I think 3 or 4 French wine companies that will do that. They pasteurize them. Okay.
When you cook with wine, you burn out the alcohol.
Yeah.
So when you boil wine,
Yeah.
why does that not change the heat?
Well, what they're doing is they're bringing it up to a very, very quick boil, for a split second. So it's not even that they've perfected it in a way that the alcohol's not running out. Okay, so it's not that it's boiling it out. Back in the day, they used to put it on the stove and they used to boil it, and that's how they make it into a mavushal wine. We don't do that anymore.
But it probably dilutes the proof. No?
It can a little bit. I mean, they really have done it in a way, and there are studies being done on it now, in Israel specifically. Does this affect and change the wine? They're actually doing studies on it biologically, and how does that affect the wine?
I'm sure it doesn't, but
It can.
is boiling this part of the kashrut process? I mean, why is that needed?
Why is it needed? So if you want to serve your wine in a kosher restaurant here in New York, it's got to be mavushal. It's got to be boiled. So that's the only way you're going to get it in there.
Okay, but
So as a marketing piece, or if serving it at a party, that's the only way that it's going to happen. In Israel, only 5% of the wineries will boil their wines.
Right, but there's kosher.
But they're all kosher.
So I don't get it.
So if you want to serve your wine in a kosher restaurant in New York, it's got to be mavushal. In Israel, it does not need to be. Why? In Israel, there's different rules, and the rabbis there, I think, are a little bit more relaxed about it, and they don't. They feel that the person that's going to pour the wine is Shomer Shabbos, and they're not going to have any issues. So that's the only reason why someone would do that these days here in America. If you want to serve your wine at a party, at a restaurant, all that type of stuff. Questions? Any more questions about kosher? Israel. All right, so let's taste. All right, which wines did you like better, one or two? Let's start with that. What did you guys like better?
I like one, but my points just match what I like.
Okay, that's good. As long as you like one the best, that's what you need to know, really. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. What would you like better?
Could have sand one, but it was completely
Dry?
flat.
Flat?
Had no body, no
Right.
personality. Two is okay.
Two's okay.
One.
One.
One had a lot more flavor, I think.
One a lot more flavor? One?
Kristen.
One?
I didn't really like either of them.
Didn't like either of them? One? One, if it was really cold, then we change the flavor. What do you guys think better, one or two? A cut. One. One? Good. All right, so we had a good amount of people that liked one better. A good amount of people, some people liked two, some people didn't like anything. And that's exactly what you're gonna get with any two wines that I put in the room here. You're gonna have some people liking one better than the other. If I served a sweet wine, you're gonna have everyone saying, I like it, I don't like it. You have, a whole different, kind of what's called. All right, so one I said is a Sauvignon Blanc, two is a Chardonnay, two separate different grape varietals, two different tastes, therefore. And as well, with these two in particular, two different levels, okay? This is a higher level of their wine, while this wine is actually a Movusho wine that they make, and it's a little bit, price point wise, we're talking maybe $16 and $25. So higher quality
The Sauvignon Blanc.
Sauvignon Blanc, number one. And number two is a little bit, cheaper of a type of wine. Not necessarily in quality in grapes, but just in the production of it. They probably just did a, talk about the winemaker before on what makes a great wine, the W. The winemaker can use a lot of different techniques to make it his wine. So you can use a barrel, he can use a steel tank, he can let it go for 12 months, 16 months, 18 months in a barrel. All this stuff will affect the flavor and taste of the wine.
Why was that not included as one of the characteristics? Barrel, I mean, it costs thousands of dollars, wouldn't it?
Right. So it is in the characteristics under the taste,
Winemaker?
winemaker. Yeah, that's where we're going. Yeah. The winemaker can use a lot of these techniques. He can use the different, and the other thing the winemaker can do is blend the wine, right? So you can take a Chardonnay or a Chardonnay from this vineyard and blend it with a Chardonnay from this vineyard and make it into one consistent wine all throughout. But it's two separate flavors from the different vineyards that are going on.
Was Israel one of the first to start with the steel barrel?
No, what Israel is really known for is something called drip irrigation. That's really what they're known for, and it was Professor Bravda who started it, and now it's everywhere in the world. In UC Davis, they use it everywhere. And it's consistent. It's called drip irrigation. Consistently, there's a certain amount of water that gets dripped into the grapes. Say again?
I was wondering where I heard about the Startup Nation.
Startup Nation?
Wrote it out.
Did it? I didn't read it.
I read Startups.
Oh, cool. I didn't see. It's a movie or a book? Anyone read Startup Nation?
Yes.
Okay, so did they talk about drip irrigation?
I didn't read it, I know about it.
Oh. It counts then.
What?
No doubt. That's good. All right. So let's move on to 3 and 4. Two red wines. Similar in nature, but different. We'll talk more about that. And we'll move forward from there. So taste 3 and 4. We'll start on this side. Zahava. 3 or 4, what do you like? Oh, yeah. 3 or 4, what did you like better? 3. 3? 4? You could like 3 better, it's okay. Okay, 4. Not a red person, so she likes 1 or 2 better. 4. 3. 4. 3.
Can't tell the difference.
Can't tell the difference. They both taste like wine.
No?
4. 4 and 4. Okay.
Two of the same.
Very, very
Two
good.
of the same.
The good news is that you're all right. That's the good news. Give yourselves a round of applause. I like that. That's good. What are the wines? Okay. So number 3, we have a Cabernet Merlot blend. So it was a little bit trickier with number 3. 65% Cabernet, 35% Merlot. So it's going to be a little bit. It's also from Tepperberg, which is the winery that we were talking about before. 1870, Israel, all that. The next one is the Dalton Reserve, number 4, 100% Cabernet. Okay, this is one of their high-end wines from Dalton. It's a reserve wine, and it's a 2009. So someone was asking me, and they were saying, like, what do you think about it? I said, I think it's a very young wine. Okay, because it's a reserve wine. It's a wine that can age probably for around 8, 9, 10 years. It can age. So you could have this in 2020, and still it would be a good wine. Wine, what's very unique about wine is that there's a barrel aging that takes place. For 16 months, 2 years, it ages in the barrel. Then it does a second aging, and that's in the bottle. Okay, so the age on the wine is when the grapes were harvested. So this is a 2009 vintage. Grapes were harvested in 2009, and then right now we're in 2011. So it's probably sat in a barrel for 2 years or a year, and now they're releasing it. So it's still a very young wine, even though it's 2009. Still considered a young wine, and it's just something to kind of keep in mind when you're aging wines and when you're tasting wines, the age of the wine.
Years in terms of grapes. So they say 2005 was a great year in Israel for the grapes.
Right.
What does that mean?
So what that means is, so what is a great year? We talk about great years, they talk about Bordeaux, 2005, and we talk about all these different years, right? So what it means is that consistently throughout that year, they had a great product. They produced a lot of grapes. They were really, it was a great, the weather was good, all the.
It should be.
No, it just means that it's better than the other years. And I'm sure there's a certain piece to it of actual hard numbers, factual information, how many grapes were produced, the numbers, the details of it, pH levels and all that type of stuff, which we're going to do, all that type of stuff. All right, so both of the reds are 2009, so they're both kind of young. But I think you taste it more on the reserve wine, that it's very, very young, which is number 4.
What is reserve?
What does reserve mean? Great question. So a wine company or a vineyard, what they typically have is many different vineyards where they produce their wines from. Okay, so they'll have this piece of land, and then they'll have this vineyard, and they'll produce 2 acres of red grapes here, of Cabernet grapes, and 2 acres of Merlot, and maybe some Chardonnay. And then they have another vineyard where they produce the same type of grapes, but it's a different vineyard. And the flavors are going to be different in that vineyard, and the grapes that they grow there are going to be different. So what a reserve means is that, first of all, a higher quality of grape. Okay, so it could be that the way they picked it was a higher quality, or the barrel they used was a higher quality, how long they aged it for was a longer amount of time. All these things would make it a reserve wine. So a winemaker would kind of take time, care, the real, the specialness of that type of wine, and produce the wine, and really you'd get a reserve wine. Okay, and the price point is higher, right? So that's typically kind of how you know it's a reserve wine. When the price point goes up, you know it's a reserve wine. Not necessarily better wine, but just it's a reserve wine. A lot of times it is better, but not always.
What are the prices on the 2 bottles?
Okay, price points. The reserve on the Dalton. This is around
price point.
Yeah, price point. You said right?
Uh-huh.
This is around $38 for this one. This is number 4. I believe this one is in the $30, just 30 straight, $28, $30. not necessarily, most reds you'd find are more expensive, especially on the kosher side. And Israeli whites are also, there aren't too many high-end Israeli whites. There are a few, not a lot, but from France you have some Sancerres that are very expensive, maybe some Burgundies that are very, very high-end white wines. And it's made very similar to a red wine where they barrel age it, goes through a fermentation process, and it's a lot of care into it. And therefore would require a higher price point. That's kind of how that works. So we only had one Mavushal wine tonight. Do you know which one it was?
Number one.
Narrow it down.
One?
To red, white.
It was a white wine.
What'd you have?
Two.
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay was Mavushal. That may be why it was not that great for some of you. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single time. So, we could do this again and two of the reds would be Mavushal, you wouldn't know the difference. I mean, or if you go out to a restaurant, there is really good kosher Mavushal wine. L'chaim, thank you so much for coming out tonight to learn about wine at Wine 101. I look forward to seeing you at a future event, future wine tasting Scotch event, learning about wines. L'chaim.